Yo, what's going on, guys? Happy Sunday. Go Pack Go. I wanted to make another recap video and just go over all the trades, reviewing the trades that we took from this last week all in one video. So for those of you guys that are new to the channel, welcome. If you don't know, I do trade live with my Discord group Monday through Friday, unless there's like some crazy news or something going on where we'll take a day off here and there. But for the most part, we're looking to trade Monday through Friday. I trade at 10 a.m. Eastern, so 10 a.m. New York, and we trade for usually about an hour to two. It just depends on the market that day, depends on what trade we catch. You know, to be a shorter session, sometimes if we catch our trade right away, and then sometimes we'll have to wait almost a full hour before we catch the trade that we're looking for. So it just depends on the day. But we trade, like I said, Monday through Friday. I mainly trade the indices, E-mini S&P, E-mini NASDAQ, a little bit of oil, and that's kind of like the mainstay, so to speak. And for those of you guys that have been following the channel for a bit, you guys know that I was on a really nice win streak there, almost 2 weeks worth of just straight winning. So that came to an end this week. I ended up losing on Thursday, which I'll show you guys that trade. That was the day that Powell was speaking. So you could argue that I shouldn't have even been trading that day, but it is what it is. And I felt like the market looked good enough. I felt like the setup was good and it made sense. So I don't regret it at all in that aspect. I would regret it if the market conditions were just terrible. And looking back in hindsight, like the trade didn't make any sense. But I don't feel that way about it. So it is what it is. That's trading. Either way, over the last few weeks, trading has been incredible. We've had literally like one losing day or one losing trade each of those weeks for literally like the last few weeks. So it's been good. So I can't complain too much. So with that being said, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive into it, guys. I know I'm giving away a little bit of the position that I'm taking because I'm leaving this on the chart. I'm just doing this to kind of do a quick recap, show you guys the trades we took on session, kind of the thought process behind them. Every single trade was taken live, recorded live, and is already up on YouTube for each individual day. So if you want to see like the full thought process, like in the moment, without any hindsight or anything like that, then I would go back and watch each of those days, each of those videos. You'll see the live executions, you'll see the thought process, the daily bias from every time frame, etc., etc. I am just going to show you guys, you know, again, like just a quick little run through of the trades from this last week. So here we go. Monday, coming into that silver bullet hour, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This was what I was looking for. So if I remember correctly, this move up right here, guys, did sweep the London buy-side liquidity. Therefore, I was not like super willing to get long right away because I'm seeing all of these bullish fair value gaps getting ran through, right? And then price ultimately does respect this lowest inefficiency and then starts pushing higher. But anyway, we're waiting for the opening range to be done most days anyway. So opening range, if you guys don't know, is the first 30 minutes of market open. So from 9:30 till 10 basically is that opening range, first 30 minutes. As you guys can see, opening range, high and low, are right here. So these are the first 30 minutes of market open, and these are also significant levels of liquidity that I will use to take trades off of, just depending on how we react to these levels, right? So just watching price here on Monday. You guys can go back and rewatch each one of these sessions, by the way. So as price pushes up, we take the opening range high, right? So at this point, you know, I'm not really looking to get long again. I want to wait and see. I'm like, okay, are we going to sweep this buy side liquidity and then sell off? Or are we going to hold this high, not really give it a reaction like it's going to be a sweep, and then just kind of keep displacing higher? So at that point, I'm waiting to see. I wait a few minutes, and I'm just waiting to see. We come back into the range. I'm thinking, oh, wait, maybe we're going to be bearish. We respect the very first bullish fair value gap, and then we make another nice aggressive push to the upside, leaving behind another fair value gap. At this point, I am becoming more confident in the fact that we're just going to continue getting long, right? And you can jump up in time frames and you can find other levels of liquidity. The one on NQ that I was looking at was up here. As you guys can see right here, there was that same level of liquidity right here on E-mini S&P. So you'll see that on the live session. I oftentimes have both ES and NQ side by side. So I'm looking at them, trying to find if there's SMT divergence or just looking at the relative strength of the candles depending on which direction I'm looking to trade. So for this specific trade on Monday, we basically just ended up getting a 1 to 2 even out of it as price comes back into this fair value gap, grabs our entry right there, and then proceeds to push to the upside, taking out that liquidity. And then once that liquidity was taken out, I did give it a minute just to see how it was going to react and see if it did want to just really quickly run higher and maybe head for this buy side level on NQ. That did not happen. As we pulled back, I closed it. So I got a full 1 to 2 out of this trade, and I believe it sold off from here anyway, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it did. So it would have been stopped out of break even if we did hold it. It is what it is, but that was a trade for Monday, and then that was it. Did not trade the rest of the day on Monday. Jumping up over here to Tuesday. So Tuesday was a fun day for me personally because I ended up passing one of my Top Step Combine accounts on Tuesday, and it came from both of these trades. This trade is the one that was taken actually on the live session. This trade was obviously in the PM, so we were not live on Zoom at that point. And this was a trade that I also believe I just took on my own, just on the Top Step account because I needed one more trade to pass. So just a little disclaimer on that. But this trade right here is on the recording. It is on the video from this week. If you guys want to go back and watch it, feel free to go ahead and do so. I'm just going to go ahead and mark out the 10 a.m. candle here again. So here we are coming into the New York Silver Bullet hour. And as you guys can see, price had already been selling off really aggressively all morning. What I have marked right here is the London session high. Up here, these are buy-side levels from previous New York session high. So you have Monday, New York session AM high, and then I believe there was a PM session high right to the left there. But nice little low resistance liquidity run that had been formed there. And at this point, we had swept a bunch of sell side, right? We're sweeping sell side liquidity. And at this point, you're just kind of waiting to see, based on the displacement that takes place, where are we going to go? Are we going to push higher? Are we going to displace lower? And then usually the displacement is what I'm using to determine if I'm going to continue in one way or we're going to reverse. So at this point, right at the 10 a.m. hour, we see this huge energetic displacement up, right? At this point, this is pretty obvious. You're like, okay, we're definitely headed to the upside. We're very bullish, marking out all of these inefficiencies, right? And I believe, if I remember right, I initially wanted to target this inefficiency. The reason I wanted to target this inefficiency is because it would have been in a discounted price range if price does indeed pull back. So marking out that equilibrium, just a 50% fib, or you can use your Gone box. Right here is where my entry was set initially, right on that equilibrium, waiting to see if price will pull back. And ultimately, as you guys will see here, price does not pull back, and we just keep pushing higher. At this point, it gets a little bit tricky because you're sitting here like, okay, I either need to wait for a pullback or I might miss this trade altogether. And I would say most of the time, I would actually miss this trade right here. And the reason I would usually miss it is because I'm usually a trader that I like to get the best possible entry. And if I don't get that, usually I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to chase it because that's how I end up losing. However, on this day, I'm just like, okay, you know what? If we at least get some new structure to form and we get a great model, I'm willing to at least put risk on the table for that trade. So I'll show you guys what happened here on ES, 1 minute chart. Just waiting for structure to form at this point. Not trying to chase it. I'm not trying to get long on the very first fair value gap or anything. I just want to wait for structure. I want to wait for like an order block, a liquidity sweep internally, and then get another break of structure back up with a fair value gap. Boom, enter, we're good to go. So here we get a little run on liquidity right there, and then we see price displace higher, breaking structure, order block, fair value gap. And as price was pulling back, if you guys watched the recording, I actually didn't enter in this fair value gap. I got a much better entry because I actually saw it a little bit late. I was looking at NQ at the time. I flip back over to this right as price is pulling down into the middle of this order block, and obviously that's why my long position tool is right here. This is where I got filled, was here on this candle, and this is where we got in for the trade. So this was going to be, you know, risk-free and or TP1, TP2, ultimately though holding for potential runners up to these levels. I felt really convicted in this. This was the London high. I felt really convicted in this, and I felt like if we came up here to these previous AM, you know, New York session highs, that I would like that'd be kind of just a bonus. So just a disclaimer, I did not catch this full run. Some people may have, but I basically ended up just getting out once we took this high out. So that was a very nice, like already a 1 to 4. This full trade would have been a 1 to 10, almost a 1 to 11, because our stop went right below this low that was taken out. So very tight stop, 2.5 points. As you guys can see, price flies, takes out that level, chops around then for a little while, and then later in the AM session into lunch, we do see that continuation up through London high and through the AM session highs from previous days. So at that point, boom, that's the AM session trade. So then the trade I caught for PM session, we'll just skedaddle on over to it. Waiting through New York lunch, usually I don't like to trade New York lunch at all. So I wait for that hour to be done with before I find my entry. As you guys can see, we're sweeping these former New York session highs, right? We're getting that displacement down. I want to mark out where the end of New York lunch is. This hourly, boom, 1 p.m. Once this hour ends, guys, I'm open to getting into a trade if like a really clear and obvious trade is present. I'm open to getting into a trade, but I need to wait for at least 1 p.m. New York time, at least. Sometimes you'll end up waiting much later than that, but every day is different. Sometimes you can get away with getting in trades as soon as the New York lunch hour is over. That's just my simple rule. If I see a great, amazing trade that makes a lot of sense based on the liquidity that we've taken, where I feel like we're headed next, I'll do that, right? So again, I was just taking this trade on the Top Step eval account, and this was actually the trade that helped me pass. So you guys will see here how this all plays out. I'm waiting for 1 o'clock, That's why I'm not entering here. That's why I'm not entering in these up close candles. I'm not getting short there. I'm waiting for my time, the trade I want to take during the time I want to take it. I see this huge displacement down. I'm like, okay, I'm anticipating this now. Once this hour ends, I'm open to getting into a trade. So boom, we're into the next hour. I actually entered here on this candle, which is why I got filled here. So I actually was a little impatient here. I should have waited to be a couple minutes into the hour, let this pullback into here happen, order block, fair value gap. And then I could have had my stop either here or just had a much tighter risk to reward. Doesn't really matter. But this is the entry that I had, and this was the trade that played out from it. So price sells off. I did not partial at all. I only had 2 contracts on this trade, which is why I had to hold it so long. Because I needed more than I guess I thought I did for the trade. But price sells off really aggressively here. And this level right here, guys, I had my take profit set right at the tick I needed it to pass the challenge, with like enough to cover the spread or whatever. So it came down like 1.5 points away from hitting that, and then starts retracing up. And I was starting to feel a little bit sick to my stomach. I'm like, man, I caught an amazing trade, and it's like, this might not end up playing out. And then I just kept holding it, and then it did sell off, and then that was it. And then it actually retraced up the rest of the day. So it was it was a great way to kind of finish off that trade, finish off that combine, and get where we needed to go. But that was Tuesday's trades. Wednesday's trades. Let's jump back down here to the 1 minute time frame. This day was also on ES. So again, waiting for that silver bullet hour on this day. The only day we didn't wait for the silver bullet hour was on Friday, and it's not like a fucking hard rule where it's like a sin to trade before silver bullet hour, because sometimes there's moves that play out before silver bullet hour, and I understand that. Nothing is an absolute in trading, guys. That's what you got to understand. Nothing is 100%. Nothing is absolute, other than the fact that you will lose regardless of what strategy you use. All I'm telling you is that most of the time I'm waiting until that silver bullet hour to take a trade, because usually opening range, you just get some bullshit like this anyway, where it's like, I don't want to trade in this. This is disgusting to me. I don't want to trade. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to trade in this. So that's what I found most of the time, but that doesn't mean 100% of the time that's what I'm going to do. And Friday, you'll see I took a trade before silver bullet hour, and if I had waited for silver bullet hour, I would have missed the trade. So it just depends on the day. Please hold. I got to drink my coffee before it gets cold. But anyway, let's jump into this trade. So waiting till this hour, we can see that I've already marked out this low right here, these lows. You've got equal lows right here, which are the opening range low as well. Where's our opening range high? It's right here. Opening range high right there. Let's mark that out right here. Opening range high also lines up with relative equal highs over here to the left. And then looking at higher levels up in here, looks like there were other levels up in here, but just going off the trade that I took, again, this was traded live. You can go back and watch the recording. Looks like I just held it to here. So let's see how this played out, and let's go over it. So price comes down, and we sweep that opening range low, sweep those relative equal lows, and now I'm waiting for what? You guessed it, displacement back up. Let's see if we can get that. So boom, looks like right there we get a fair value gap to form. So you have a volume imbalance and a fair value gap. I include the volume imbalance in that fair value gap markup. if something forms just like this, right? So waiting to see if we get a pullback into there. Price flies. Price absolutely flies to that or through this structure. The reason I'm pausing here is because I'm starting to remember that this trade was actually taken on NQ. I called out both of these trades, NQ and ES side by side. So just go back and watch the recording. I'm just going to go over this trade to make it easy for now. They both played out, if I'm not mistaken, but they played out very, very similar. The structure just looked maybe a little bit different on NQ for Wednesday. So if you go to Wednesday, October 18th, you'll see what I'm talking about between NQ and ES. But either way, we see price pull back, boom, grabs that fair value gap, and then flies right through that take profit level, and that was it, guys. So that was the trade for Wednesday. If I can, while I got you here, I'll go over to Wednesday quick for the NQ trade, because that was actually where I executed the trade on. So let's do that. Just to keep everything nice and accurate for you guys, so you guys can see everything. Boom. Let's jump back down here, 1 minute time frame. That same structure on NQ looked like this. Let's mark that 10 a.m. hour. Like so. Let's get to that silver bullet. Boom, we see price run down, sweep the low, right? We sweep the low one more time. Opening range low, same shit. Opening range high right here. Waiting for that displacement up. And if I remember right, I might have taken this on a 2 minute time frame. I don't quite recall. You guys can go back and watch the recording, like I said, and see if it did. But either way, this was the entry that I got. Okay, I'm remembering now. So what I did was we had one massive fair value gap right here on NQ. The reason that I traded it on NQ instead of ES is because I felt like NQ looked stronger and had higher relative strength. So what I did is I drew up equilibrium right here, put my entry smack dab right on equilibrium at the low end of that fair value gap, right? So that's what I was using, and I put my stop loss below kind of this sequence of up close candles. I didn't feel like I needed to have it all the way down here. You could have if you wanted to, but I just put it here and did get away with it. So price comes down, taps in, we do a little bit of drawdown. Gets a little bit scary right there, but then we start to see price expand quickly to the upside. We hold this fair value gap right there that we print in our trade, take out that level, and we take out this level as well. I got ticked out of this trade perfect. My take profit was set right here. It was absolutely picture perfect to the tick. I think it went one tick, maybe two past it, got out of that trade, and you guys will see how really precise that was. I was fully out of the trade. It wasn't a partial or anything like that, because then we just absolutely sell off. So it ended up being just a perfect take profit. And then I think the rest of the day we ended up kind of just being more so bearish, if I'm being honest and I recall correctly. So that actually would have been maybe a good time to get short, but to me, there wasn't any great entries, even in hindsight, where you would have been able to get short really in this price move down. Not like something clean that would have had a really nice tight risk reward, nice tight stop. So I don't think I would have taken it anyway. But anyway, so that was the Wednesday trades. Let's get over to Thursday. This was the only losing trade of the day, or of the week, I should say. And it was right here on NQ again. Remember, this was the day that Powell was speaking. So let's mark the 10 a.m. hour. And you guys will see, based on what I've shown you so far, you'll see the logic behind this trade, right? So what we had happen right before, or I guess I should say during opening range. So at 9:30 opening bell, price comes up, does sweep this internal high. Very, very shallow breach. Nothing. I mean, we just sweep the high. We displace lower. So initially, I definitely am thinking, oh my God, we swept liquidity. We displace lower, market structure shift. This is like, you know what I mean? Everything you'd want to see to get short. 100%. No doubt about it. No questions asked. However, here's what I see, and you guys will see this in the recording. I went over all this. I saw that price had displaced so much to the point it came down and swept these lows. Interesting. And then at that same exact moment, this opening range low had been taken out on ES. So as price is coming back down like this, on ES at the same time swept this low again, which created SMT divergence at the lows. Bullish SMT divergence. I'm thinking, okay, well, that's interesting. Let's see if we hold, or are we actually going to break structure back up with displacement? If we do, I'm willing to get long to then target the opening range high, because that's right here, and there were other liquidities above there. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I'm open to playing either side of the market. Let's just see what price does. So price does come up, and we start breaking structure to the upside. Not here just yet. We create a little order block right there. Boom. Price very energetic, very strong, very obvious. There's no debate about what's going on here, right? So I'm waiting to see if we get a pullback into this order block, which was going to be my entry. Order block entry inside of a fair value gap, stop right below the fair value gap sequence, and just simple target, going to go target this buy side liquidity. Would have been a little over 1 to 2. We're waiting to see if price is going to pull back. Price gets very close to taking that level. If price took out that buy side level before coming and triggering me in, I'm deleting this trade. I'm deleting this trade, waiting to see if something else happens, and maybe trading something else after that. But because we went up and put in relative equal highs, I'm thinking to myself, we got more liquidity up there. Even better. Sweet. So we come back down and grabs our entry. We go back and forth here a little bit. Like we come up here, it looks like, oh my God, we're gonna get through here. We're gonna have another winning trade. The winning streak is gonna continue. But ultimately, the reason this fair value gap is marked is we just couldn't get past that fair value gap. Price sells off. And then that was the only loss. That was the only loss of the week. There was one more trade on this day on the E-mini S&P. It didn't trigger my entry at all. There were people that market executed. I was 2 ticks away from getting triggered in. Go back and watch the recording from Thursday, October 19th. You'll see it. It was a short on ES that hit at least 1 take profit. It didn't hit the target we wanted. So most people, if they took any partials, were stopped out of break even anyway. So because I didn't catch it, I'm not going to include it in this, but you guys can go back and review that if you want, which then brings us to Friday, which again is the trade, like I said, that is the only trade that I took before opening bell, or I'm sorry, before silver bullet hour. I took it during opening range. Every once in a while I'll do this. But like I said, most of the time I don't. Most of the time the price action doesn't even really show anything that, in my opinion, gives you an A+ setup anyway. So usually I'm just waiting no matter what. But I saw what looked like, in my opinion, an amazing setup, and therefore I wanted to act on that. So what I'm going to do really quick, guys, I'm going to bring this back. I'm going to bring this back to, because I don't want to include I don't want to get the 1 hour candle here when I jump up in the time frames here. Just yet. Let me see if it shows it. It doesn't. So I am going to give away a little bit of this. No, I'm not. I'm just going to give you guys some reference. So go back and watch the recording if you guys are confused. I go over it. But this 1 hour wick that came up, swept these internal highs, filled this imbalance. What happens on this next candle, just watch where this box is. So you got a 50% level right here. That's consequent encroachment of this 1 hour wick. Let's drop back down to the let's drop back down to the 5 minute real quick. And let me get us back to the silver bullet. Well, I'll mark it out. I'll mark out the silver bullet hour just so you guys can see how much earlier this trade was taken. And you guys will see why. So price comes up to that consequent encroachment level. And I'm at this point, guys, I'm not in a trade. I'm not contemplating a trade. I'm actually, if anything, I was waiting to see what price does. So price, as it runs up there, I'm thinking we might be bullish. And then we get this crazy reaction down, very strong, energetic movement down where we break structure off of where? Consequent encroachment on the 1 hour chart. Higher time frames hold higher power. Now, because we've seen this rejection off of a higher time frame bearish PD array, I drop down to the 1 minute time frame. I see a break of structure. I see a fair value gap. I see solid order blocks right here. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, well, if I were to take any trade and just be a robot, like just following my plan, following my system, this is a trade that I would take every single time because we got a higher time frame confirmation, and dropping down to lower time frame, we got the exact model that we want. So I saw this kind of last second as price is pulling back into this fair value gap. I sent a message in the Discord that I was going to get short right here. And then price gave a very strong reaction like in the very next candle. So I told people that if they were not in this trade already, so we come up here, my stop was set here. I probably should have had it up here if I wanted to be really, really safe. But I was just like, you know what? I'm going to put it right here. I want it to be below a 5-point stop loss. I'm above the fair value gap sequence. I'm going to be good to go with that. If I get stopped, I get stopped. And luckily, we came 1 tick away. Didn't stop me out. Go watch the recording. It's on there. But I told everybody to wait. I said, wait for it to come back to the fair value gap just in case it might just run right through here. I might lose At which point I would have been a little mad because I took it, during opening range, and I actually probably would have blamed it on that. But it's either way, I felt like the trade was justified and made a lot of sense. So felt like it was worth taking a stab. But as price comes back is when I told people, I'm like, okay, now that it's coming back, you guys can grab entries again in this fair value gap. And then price does end up selling off, and it sells off to that low down there. I got out at 10 handles, just a little disclaimer. So this was set at 14. I got out at 10. So I got out right here. As you guys can see, price had a very strong reaction down. At this point, we had an internal sweep on NQ. And just to be safe, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I'll take my 10 points. I have nothing wrong with that. Already a nice 1 to 2. I'm willing to give up the extra 4 points. So that's what I did. There were people on the call, obviously, that did not do that, and they just held it, and it sold off. And then I was expecting there to be a level of bullishness from this level, and we just never got it. We sold off the rest of the day. For the most part, we even pulled back. I even jumped up in time frame, and I told everybody, I said in PM session, if we pull back, guys, to this 15-minute breaker, it was also a breaker on the 1 hour chart, that would be where I would like to get short. And what I marked out on the 1 hour was this red zone right here. This is the 2 to 2.5 standard deviation from, I believe it was this manipulation move right here, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, mark that out. And that was where I told everybody that I would be seeing targeting in terms of like if there was still continued sell side. But I did say that, I wasn't like super confident in it because usually we're not pushing new highs and new lows on a Friday. Sometimes it happens because, like I said, there's no absolutes in trading. Any rule that you ever hear from somebody is just a preference. It's nothing is 100%. It's just something that they feel like they've observed, they've noticed, that they've put in their trading plan to make them more precise, and at the end of the day, more profitable, right? So I just said if they were bearish, that's what I would do. I would wait for price to come up into this, into this breaker and this 15-minute fair value gap, and then see if we see continued sell-off down to there. As you guys can see, price comes up, taps it, and then we sell off to that level, and then we end off the day. So that was that. I did not take this trade or whatever. I just said this is what you could keep an eye on for. What I actually said, though, is I said that I would not take a trade right off the 15-minute chart unless you were just going to enter right away with your stop above the 15-minute fair value gap candle. So that was what I told everybody. But what I would have rather have done personally, like if I was looking to take a trade off of that, I would have dropped down to a smaller time frame and looked to get an entry off of something like that. So on the 1 minute, this is probably what I would have been waiting for. I would have seen this reaction down. I wouldn't have really liked this. I would have been wanting to see a fair value gap entry. I would have been wanting to see how this fair value gap holds. As you guys can see, it holds, pushes price back up. So I would have just been waiting. At this moment, I would have actually been expecting this high to get ran through. But just waiting at this point, not taking a trade. Boom, we get another strong displacement down. After this strong displacement down like this, and then we run through this gap, I would have actually been comfortable taking this. I didn't take this trade. I'm just pointing out what I would have done had I been looking to take this setup off that 15-minute breaker, and it would have been right here. So that would have been the entry. Stop loss for me, most likely. Let's see what it would have looked like if we enter right off the beginning of that gap. Let's just say 1 tick into the gap. If I could have been below 5 points, I would have put it here. I probably would have maybe just did right at the bodies. I would have just did an even 5. Or who knows? If you're feeling stingy, you could just go above the fair value gap candle. It just kind of depends on your risk tolerance. I maybe would have done here 5 points. Nice and easy. Looking to target. Since it was PM on a Friday, I probably would have just went for something slight. I probably would have just went for like this recent low or maybe these internal lows. Get a nice little 1 to 2, 10 points again. But like I said, price does ultimately sell off to that level. However, it does hit that level. Does it hit it before? It does. So it gets there before 410. If you guys are trading futures, specifically like a top step account, you got to have your positions closed before 410. So this would have been it. Your TB would have been hit right here, most likely at 3:45 New York time, guys. But yeah, those were all the trades from this week, guys. Only one loss. There was only one loss the week before as well, and I believe only one loss the week before that as well. It's been really, really good. It's been really fun. This isn't, going to be a weekly outlook video per se, but what I can say is, I guess if we look real quick, here at this was TGIF I just had drawn up, but if we come up here to like the NQ charts, it's pretty obvious where we're most likely headed, right? So looking here at the daily chart, it looks like we want to take all of this out, and it does not look like, I wouldn't expect we take this out and just bounce, to be honest with you. I'm thinking that there's actually more continued sell side into some weekly inefficiencies down here. Let's see what the monthly looks like real quick. Same, yeah, so monthly inefficiencies here as well. I would at least expect price to retrace to equilibrium or discount of this price leg. Because to be honest with you, I'm not convinced that we will sell off through these lows. The reason I say that is because we've already taken out sell side here, inefficiency, and we displace up. We broke structure right here. I would not be surprised at all if price came down, equilibrium, filled this inefficiency and bounced off of this breaker, and then we see price continue up. This is the monthly chart, by the way. So, I mean, you're talking as we get into 2024, we'll see price pushing these levels. But, you're framing top down. So, here's down to the weekly. I'm expecting this weekly candle to, maybe we sweep here and get a little bit of a bounce back up to fill in an inefficiency or something like that. But then I think that we most likely look like we're headed lower. Earlier in the week, if we pull up first to maybe this inefficiency and start to roll over, I'm targeting right here for sure. And that's really that on NQ. I'm assuming ES looks pretty similar, which it does. So yeah, I mean that's really the bias, I guess, overall. I'm looking a little bit more bearish at this point in time to get down to those monthly inefficiencies, and that's what I'm seeing here. ES a little bit further ahead than NQ at the moment. ES probably being a little bit weaker. So maybe I would look to utilize that to my advantage to pick which one I'm going to trade. But we'll see what the day-to-day price action brings, because at the end of the day, I can have a weekly or a daily bias, and depending on what price does, that could completely flip and become something totally different. But guys, hopefully this video helped you. If you guys do want to trade live with our Discord, like I said, it's Monday through Friday. It's going to be linked in the description and in the comments. If you guys do want 20% off of your first Top Step Combine, that will be linked in the description and the comments as well. But hopefully you guys found this video helpful, insightful in some way, shape, or form, just reviewing the trades, reviewing the thought process, and just kind of having a little journal of how we've been performing and the thought process. And one last time, if you want to go back and watch each one of those trades live, they're already on the YouTube channel, so you guys can do that. But I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday. Like I said, go pack, go. And I will see you guys next week with more trade recaps, more trading sessions, and to keep this green streak alive and well. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Enjoy your week. Safe trading, and I will talk to you guys soon.